Okay, so good morning, everyone. I'm Dave Carr. I'm the Managing Director of Propeller. And I'm here to talk to you this morning, and the whole day is about exploring how artificial intelligence is transforming repairs and maintenance in social housing, but not in the distant future, but as practical solutions we can implement today to serve your tenants and while reducing your costs. Specifically, how improvements can be made in the performance of the workforce by reducing the visits they need to make, as well as making their time in the field as efficient as possible. It is your biggest cost. As I'm first up today, I thought it was worth spending some time ensuring that we all have an understanding of what AI actually is, but at a high level. Hopefully this isn't going to be too techy for you. Okay, so I've got a video here. It's about 5.5, 6 minutes long. It's a really good introduction to AI. Okay, I hope that wasn't too techy for everybody. I left some of the end of it out there, but I think that's a good overview of some of the technology behind AI, and I will be referring back to some of the points that Michael was discussing there as I go through the presentation. So I think it's worth understanding that AI is already in housing. The integration of AI in social housing is gaining significant momentum, with applications spanning from tenant services to planning processes. AI is poised to transform the social housing sector by addressing many of its long-standing challenges, driving efficiency and improving overall quality of life for tenants. There are several key areas are emerging where AI is making an impact. Obviously, we're going to concentrate on this today, but property management and maintenance, housing providers are using AI to optimize maintenance schedules, predict property issues before they become serious problems. A scalable AI-powered solution can send large numbers of automated personalized messages to tenants to inform them of their repair work. I was talking about some clients about that yesterday. This proactive approach helps improve tenant satisfaction and reduces emergency repair costs. Resource allocation. I'm not going to go into this too much because I know one of our speakers later on, Nick from IQ, and my colleagues is going to be going into that, but resource allocation using AI. Planning and development. The UK government recently announced significant AI initiatives for housing development. Planning permissions will be sped up as the government rolls out new AI tool, which can scan hundreds of files in seconds, making it easier for home improvements while turbocharging the plan for change milestone to build 1.5 million houses. And this one I found quite interesting as well. Homelessness prevention. AI is also being used and exploring for preventing homelessness, with focus of how AI can prevent homelessness, optimize housing resources, and support policymakers in smarter, more data-driven and evidence-driven decisions. The technology offers substantial promise for addressing efficiency challenges and improving tenant services through implementation. Though implementation requires careful consideration of data privacy, digital equity, and ensuring technology enhances rather than replaces human-centered approaches to housing. So what is AI in context within housing? Okay, so one of the 4 or 5 things that we need to look at how we can use AI is predicting when equipment will fail, or when components will fail, or when parts of the assets will fail, using that data to predict. Prioritizing repairs based on urgency and impact. Schedule maintenance officially across properties. Analyze patterns in repair requests to identify root causes. And automating administrative tasks. I'll be looking at administrative tasks later on. Think of AI as your most experienced maintenance manager, working 24/7 with perfect memory and the ability to process thousands of data points. So AI needs data. It needs lots of data. We touched on it earlier with Michael. Human learning has changed dramatically over the past 50 years in the way we source data to learn, not the way we learn. We still learn, by the way we take on data. AI needs to access vast amounts of data to make it work for you. So where is that data that you need? Okay. So historical data, existing files. I'm fairly sure every single person in their organization will have somewhere at some point a vast file structure with a whole load of data in it, the S drive or within SharePoint. So existing files, and I'll be going through a use case on how that data can be extracted and used later on. Legacy systems. We've all been running our systems, many of us, for multiples of tens of years. Those systems are full of data. And it's important data that you shouldn't, from a GDPR point of view, yes, but there's data there which you can use. And again, I'll be talking about that later on. Data warehouses. Lots of organizations have invested heavily in pulling the data from their various systems and building their own warehouses. Again, that's data that you can use. The internet. Okay, fun fact of the day. The internet contains data estimated to be around 175 zettabytes. 1 zettabyte is equivalent to 1 trillion gigabytes. That's quite a lot of data. But no matter where you get this data from, as we said earlier, machine learning needs to learn. So we need to feed that machine. You've got to be collecting that data. Okay, so I just want to talk and concentrate a little bit on AI and operative performance data. So many years ago, I used to run a team of field service engineers in computer hardware maintenance. And I can remember chatting to my service director at the time about how we make the team more efficient, because we just won a large contract with a high street retailer for warranty repairs. And to be honest, the answer hasn't really changed in the last 30 years since I had that conversation. It's about first time fix. The right person, the right place, the right tools, the right skill sets, and the right parts. But what has changed is the way that we can use data to achieve that first time fix, and indeed every other element of operative performance. It's about how we can analyze using AI. So in example, from a data point of view, in Propeller, we have 3.7 million completed jobs within the database. That's 5.4 million visits in order to complete those jobs. That's 1.4594 visits per job. Wouldn't it be great if we could get that closer to 1? So how do we collect this data? Operatives in the field, and if we can get them to press the right buttons on the PDAs, and again, I'll talk to you about that later on because I know it's always a difficult one, then the data that we're collecting with operatives out in the field currently in Propeller is the fault description with SORs being used, the time of the fault reported, the address and the coordinates of the reported repair, the travel time for the operative to get there, the predicted route, adding GPS tracking over the top of that for the actual route, resolution information, asset data, makes and models, parts used, time taken to resolve the visit and the overall job. Missed visit reasons. We've currently got 0.6 million missed visits within Propeller and the reasons why they were missed. Photographs, documents and certificates. We'll talk about that later on again, how we can analyse those. And the cost of the visit, further works required reasons. But the interesting thing is, we've always collected this data. That data has always been there, but it's about what we do with it now. Reporting in the past has required vendors like ourselves to build reporting platforms within their product, or more recently allow common tools like Power BI or your own reporting tools to actually plug into the data and consume it, or put it into your corporate data warehouse. All of those take technical resource to build and maintain. But what about if your reporting tool looked like this? I'm going to be honest with you, we haven't done this yet, but it's the sort of stuff that we're working towards. Okay, Michael talked earlier about prompts and within the AI, and it's all about writing your prompts, which is effectively building the question set for your AI model. But wouldn't it be great if you had a natural language reporting tool over the top of all of your data, rather than having to go to IT and saying, oh, can you give me this KPI report, or can you do this, or can you do that? Literally be able to go in there and go, which engineers are performing the best based on your criteria? Which field engineers may need additional support or training, because you can see the patterns of it's either taking them longer to do a job or they're having repeat visits. All of that information is in there. You could even build your prompts in line with the TSM reporting requirements. As long as you're collecting the data, we can report on it. How else can we use the data and AI to improve operative efficiency. So when I was talking with our technical teams, we do mull this over now and again. One of the things that came out, especially from my point of view, because I have a team of about a dozen developers within Propeller, and they introduced me to something. And it was a new concept for myself, something called gamification. I had no idea what that was. When they explained it to me, gamification is the process of applying game design elements and game principles in non-game context to enhance user engagement and motivation. It often involves incorporating elements such as points, badges, leaderboards, and rewards to make tasks more enjoyable and encourage participation. Essentially, it's about making non-game activities more engaging, similar to how games work. And I know this works. There's some games flying around on LinkedIn at the moment. They take 20 seconds. It's a little mind game or it's a puzzle, that sort of thing. It is addictive. So by incorporating gamification within our apps or within your reporting or within the tools, it would be interesting to see how that could improve things. We can use AI to create gamification, which can help the motivation and efficiency and indeed give you the metrics for rewarding team members. We do a lot of work with contractors as well, not just the HAs, typically contractors working within the HAs, but how they're always looking at how they can reward, how they can improve the efficiency, how they can reward their operatives for meeting targets. So we had a little look at how we could do this. Have I got a zoom on this? No. Okay, so you can see here, this is a gamification board which we built based on operative performance. You've got professional achievements in there, safety performance, monthly performance board, certification pathways. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on your screen there, but down here, we're actually starting to build teams who are then competing against each other. But the key thing is here is the key metrics haven't changed across what you want as an organization. It's just the way that we've built it. However, you've got to get the balance right. There are studies as to how different people respond to gamification in different ways, depending on their personalities. Overall, the studies saying that there is a significant positive impact, but you also have to manage those who just don't take it on board. It's not something that works for them. So you've got to get that balance right within an organization. So again, from how we can effectively automate and streamline the data collection to ensure that your operatives are collecting data and they're collecting the data that you want them to collect. So, we pride ourselves on an efficient, robust mobile app data collection. We don't lose data because we don't, you get that mindset of, well, I'm not going to do it because they've lost the data. I've done this work. It's gone. We pride ourselves in ensuring that the data is collected. Your operatives are your eyes and ears on the front line in collecting this data. So we've got to make it easy for them. So easy to understand sensible workflows on collecting the data. I.e. you're a trade doing this activity. What data do you want to know as an organization? Automating data collection as background tasks. So, for example, we don't want your operatives to be filling in data or collecting data that we can do in the background because we know where you are, we know who you are, we know what property you're at, all of that data. We don't want to be filling that in on a mobile device. That needs to be streamlined. One of the things that we've been looking at as well when I was doing some research and how we can build these into the apps is mobile app AI assistant. So your chat GPT, again, I'm not sure if we can zoom in on this, but this is a specific AI app for gas engineers called BoilerBot. It's obviously pointing at a whole raft of information for gas engineers. So you can ask it the questions, how do I do this? I've got this error. What do I need to do next? And that can help help the operatives in the field become more efficient just by introducing the simple app. Just want to go through a use case, and this is a real life scenario that we've been working with a client. It's a Northwest roofing contractor, and they want to streamline the way that they do their surveys and quotes because they have a bottleneck between the qualified surveyors or the surveyors doing the surveying, then it coming back, going to the estimator then be able to get the quotes out to the clients. So the work that we've been doing with them is a survey form was designed in conjunction with themselves in order to capture the data required on a mobile device. Very simple form, but it gives them the data that they need. That data is then fed into an AI engine. We're actually working with a couple of undergraduates who are building this part of the AI for us. So that survey form is fed into the AI. That then produces either a list of SORs or a description of the repairs that are required. A materials list can be created from that, which then calls the Propeller APIs and creates the quote and the job within Propeller. That can then automatically be sent on to the customer or the client. So the biggest efficiencies of coming from this is now it doesn't have to be a fully qualified surveyor going out to do every single inspection, because we've given guidance on that form, and we've given the operative or the roofing contractor, we've given them the ability and the steps that they need to go through to capture the data that is required. We've also taken away the simple estimations, so we'll take those off the estimator. And then what we can do is an iterative process. The more forms that go through, again, it's about machine learning. The more forms that go through, the more the engine will understand and the more complex quotes that the system can produce. So the more cycles of data collection analysis goes through, then more complex jobs can be accommodated. I just want to touch a little bit on back office automation as well. And this is a real life project that we've been working on. Propeller's been working on a product for quite a while now called Propeller Check-in, which is a method commonly used within the sector for analysing certificates where documents are effectively templated, the data extracted, passed through complex algorithms to map outcomes, typically for gas and electrical certification. It's great technology. There's some great organisations out there and they're doing it really well. However, at Propeller, we were working with an organisation who were in a bit of a muddle, shall we say, with their certification. And unfortunately had to self-refer to the regulator. We said we could have a look at their data and see if we could help. The data turned out to be 20,000 plus electrical and gas safety certificates in a folder. No UPRNs on the documents, partially manually filled in addresses, handwritten documents, multiple formats and multiple contractors. It was literally just one big muddle. No file names on there, no UPRNs in the file names. There was no way that they were going to be able to understand. The problem was they didn't know which certificates went for which properties. There just was no way they could work this out. Okay. Propeller Check-in, our existing product, there was no way this was going to be able to handle this the way the data is. The old method is very much about the formatting. You understand what the document looks like, you read the document, you take the data and you map that against the algorithms. So this gave us a bit of a quandary and something that we needed to overcome for the client. So the team had already been doing some work with R&D on AI, and was then looking to see how they could apply it with the problem in hand. In fact, since we've gone through this process, the dev team, the technical teams are really looking towards an AI first methodology, and rather than us trying to build on the old technology. So if we can do it, we will do it. And this, as the team then, this is when they introduced me to Claude. This is Claude. I'm not going into too much detail, but if you remember Michael Jolly talked about the prompts, I mentioned the prompts earlier, the prompts that we did for the estimator on the roofing contractor. We effectively built a series of prompts to analyze the documents in their raw format, as the PDFs, as the handwritten documents, as the images. Like the AI estimator, this is AI quality control on the documents. Let's see how we did. So basically, to simplify, we'd actually ask Claude, can you tell me what type of document this is? Is it an LGSR? Is it an EICR? Is it an EIC? Is it a minor work certificate? And then go on from there. For LGSRs, you're a gas safe register, Claude, with expertise in LGSR can you review the document and then extract the relevant attributes and return a JSON object for you? Now, I'm not expecting you all to be programmers and understand the next part of this, but it makes sense. We were basically asking Claude to give us this information in a format that we can use to then move things on from our point of view. So the document file name, what type of the file name and the document, the customer's address, the postcode, UPRN, there weren't any. The document date, document summary, the location, the appliance, safe to use, flu type, and that was all done using the raw data on the PDFs. So let's look at the document analysis project outcome. Here's Claude. How did we get on, Claude? So we successfully processed 10,000 plus LGSRs and 10,000 electrical certificates. High success rate, identifying compliance information, 100%. Address matching. This was the worst part of this process for us, because each contractor, they weren't working with a system that was auto-populating the addresses on the certificate, so they were literally hand typing addresses. So we were having to match this against the client's database of properties, and that was where the AI really came in for us, to look at the address, try and match it. It was significantly better than trying to do it in other methods that we've used in the past, and we were getting about a 95-96% hit rate. There was some it just couldn't read. The postcode didn't match, it didn't exist, the property didn't exist in the database. It allowed the customer to see where those problem properties were and target those for immediate work. So where we found certificates that had been filed away and may or may not have been actioned, where they were certainly on the electrical side, where they were unsatisfactory C1, C2, C3s, which had been left open on the certificates. We then ran a second pass on the data as well. So if it had an EICR which had then failed, but it then had a subsequent EICR or a minor works, it gave the customer the ability to actually look at that progress and is this a compliant property, not without having to send out a contract to do a full EICR again. And one of the other things that we did on this as well, this customer, they'd gone through a process and a program with ACO of completely upgrading and replacing all of their smokes and CO2s to the latest legislative standards. Unfortunately, what they didn't do is record any of that data anywhere. So they knew they'd done it, but they didn't know where they'd done it and in which properties they'd done it. So at the same time, where an LGSR had taken place and that information had been recorded, we took that data out from us as well, gave them, and they could give that to the regulator to evidence that they'd gone through that program. So the project was successful. It's still early days, but what we achieved could not have been done without Claude and AI. Well, certainly not in the timescales we did. The whole project took 3 months. I personally don't think we're at the stage yet where we can wholly rely on AI, as you can ask the questions in your prompts, but in real life, when you ask 10 electricians the same question, you'll get 10 different answers. But we're getting there, and that's that putting the data back through so it can learn on every cycle. So what I touched now as well is, when we were talking earlier about first time fix being the goal, well, it is, but what about not sending the operative? There are so many emerging technologies using AI, of which I know we're going to hear about some of them today from our other speakers. But some of the ones that we're looking at, we've been talking through, and some of the use cases that we've seen coming through. This is a great one. We've got one of our customers using it. I'm going to be looking at how we can roll out with some of our other customers. Have a look at it. The link's within the PowerPoint to be able to look at it. Help Me Fix. It's all about diagnostics up front. Many different types of tools for diagnosing repairs before they go out to scheduling to an operative. This has been around a while now, the auto monitoring of boilers and that sort of thing. There's some great companies out there. I know Switchy had done some of it, Vericon had done some of it. But one of the pieces of data saw that Clarion had used AI to monitor the boiler performance, reducing the emergency heating failures by 45% and saving 2.3 million annually. Metropolitan Housing use AI diagnostics. I don't know if it's Help Me Fix. I will find out at some point. But they reported 60% improvement in first-time fix and 25% reduction in repeat visits. And I also was thinking of it as well over the weekend when I was putting some of this stuff together is, could we also then incentivize tenants, whether it's through gamification or How can you incentivize the tenants to use the new technologies rather than just phoning up the repair? How can you get them involved with the chatbots? How can you get them involved with the diagnostics tools? Okay, so I'm just going to finish off on overcoming common concerns when looking at AI. So one of the ones we is our staff won't adopt or adapt to new technology. This is where you need comprehensive training programs, gradual implementation phases, and choosing user-friendly systems. There are some great systems out there. I've mentioned some of them today. And highlight how AI makes jobs easier, not redundant. Another one we hear is AI is too expensive for social housing. Well, calculate the total cost of ownership by factoring all the savings identified. Some of your savings will be tangible, but some of them will be intangible. Make sure you include all of those. Again, look for grants and government incentives. There are some out there, and I think there'll be more coming along. I've certainly seen some schemes out there, and if anybody wants to know, I can share some of those schemes which I've seen. Start with pilot projects to prove ROI. Keep in mind that pilot projects should have scope for full rollout. The housing sector is littered with successful pilots that never went anywhere else. So when you're looking at a pilot project, say, okay, well, we're going to run AI on this part, or we're going to implement it, this piece of software in this part of the business as a pilot across 10 operatives, however you're going to do it. You should plan for what that looks like as a completed project, not just the pilot. The pilot's just stage one of it. But as I say, just keep that in mind if you can actually go and run a pilot project. And our data isn't good enough. Well, you've already seen from what we did on those 20,000 certificates, AI can help clean data. Start with what you have and improve over time. Remember, it's machine learning, and the data quality will improve as the system learns. Every time you put everything through a cycle, it will improve its own learning. Okay. Thank you for listening. Thank you for putting your time in to come in this morning. And we've got time for Q&A.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dave. I think that was fascinating. By the way, I'll be honest, it was Ice Ice Baby for me that came straight away in that video.
Bowie for me, Bowie.
Yeah. Every day's a school day and gamification. I loved your comment as well around the working with customers about rewards there. I think you're onto something there, I really do. I think that's a really good way of engaging, and it was music to my ears about reducing operative visits. I think you're absolutely right, given the shortage that we've got. I think you're absolutely on the money there. So less from me. I'd be open to the floor, really. If there's anybody got any questions for Dave and his presentation, and or anything around AI and I guess the use of within the sector, and particularly the work that colleagues are doing now. So any questions at all? Nothing so far, but anyone want to raise anything?
I've got one from Robert Anslow. Russell, for in regards to surveys, I presume this technology will be used in damp and mold inspections. Absolutely. And one of the things I've even been looking at is there's a number of organisations have been including damp and mold surveys as a standard at the end of an operative visit, including photographs. We've done some work on this, is analysing the photographs, putting the photographs through the engine and actually analysing the photographs other than just the actual data that's collected.
Yeah, can I chip in there, Dave? You're right. You mentioned Help Me Fix. I think Help Me Fix have introduced AI in the front of their system as well that is already starting to recognise from videos and photographs from customers before anyone even goes out. So it's starting to learn what real damp and mould is. And as a consequence of that is learning how to diagnose what the issue is before anyone actually goes out there, which again I think is another great step forward. Thanks, Robert. Anybody else got any more questions for Dave? Tony, you've got your hand up.
Hi, Dave. Thank you. That was a really, 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 really insightful presentation. Thank you. It was just a sort of support rather than question, really, around the gamification piece. I'd read some stuff on this recently, and there was a meeting within Hayes recently around AI, and like we have like quarterly updates and quarterly awards and half-year awards, and they reckon it's all linked to sort of dopamine levels, which you touched on earlier, around people wanting to be sort of gratified and satisfied a lot quicker. And I read something around people getting a ping on their phone to say you are currently top of the leaderboard for XYZ.
Yeah.
And the sort of spin effect on those employees is huge, and we've now got the base to sort of do that. But companies haven't sort of caught up yet with the fact that it's not just a leisure tool, it's an employment tool as well. So yeah, I just thought I'd sort of reinforce that I was reading up on that lately, and it's a fascinating subject.
It is, and I was, I did quite a lot of research on it, and especially looking that there's sort of like there's four main types of classification that people will fall into, of whether they were an adopter or and a lot of it is from the gaming industry, so that they've got some fantastic names for the different categories that people fall into. But yeah, have a look at it, it's really interesting. But the key thing for me on that was really around is that being able to use that that data and using that for operative performance and being able to reward operatives.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Dave. If there aren't any more questions, just leaves me to thank Dave. Great presentation. Thanks again for your support, Dave, for Direct Works.